Sixth World Series appearance, third since 2019. They finished second and third, but never won the whole 8-team tournament. Hopkins hopes this is the one. They have the resume for it, going 44-5 this season after going 20-18 a year ago. The Jays had the 1 seed and head to Cedar Rapids with Game 1 set for Friday at 11 a.m. Salisbury is also in the D3 World Series. The Seagulls are the 2 seed. The double elimination tournament will end either June 7th or 8th.
All right, why don't we go ahead and take a quick look ahead to our weekend forecast in detail. I know a lot of folks are planning ahead. I know it's still several days away. We just got off a long weekend, and Friday, that's going to be a hot day, near 90. Now, I am tracking the potential here of a few spot showers potentially on Saturday. Not looking like a big deal, nothing to cancel plans. It's maybe a sprinkle or a shower or maybe even a rumble of thunder, but that will keep our temperatures cooler as winds switch more northeasterly, I think, during the second half of our weekend. So we'll go with 89 on Friday, very warm day. There is that spot risk of a shower or storm that comes in for Saturday. So a hot day Friday if you want to use the pool, maybe take off early. And Sunday, a beautiful day if you want to maybe do some canoeing or kayaking, high 78 and sun.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, a city council member demands transparency, the renewed push for answers about the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And we're learning new information about a shooting at the Inner Harbor leading up to Baltimore's youth curfew.
New video tonight showing the moments that led up to a shooting at the Inner Harbor. The search now for 2 suspects. Concerns still growing over one city program designed to help keep children safe. The demands one city councilman is looking to have answered. And just in, a teen arrested for attempted murder after a school bus attack earlier this month. Why police believe he may also be responsible for another crime.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
And we are following breaking news at 6 o'clock. The 17-year-old shot by a police officer earlier this month is now facing multiple criminal charges, including for the gun recovered and assault. On May 16th, BPD released video showing the teen running from police and pulling out a gun before being shot as he rounded a corner running from officers. Police say the gun had been stolen and had an extended magazine. The teen is charged as an adult, so the officer's actions remain under review. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. New video shows the moments before two teens were shot at the Inner Harbor last month. That shooting sparking the mayor's plan for a youth curfew. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor giving us a look at the new surveillance footage.
Yeah, you'll likely remember back in early April, it was here that an unruly crowd of about 200 young people triggered a double shooting that struck two teenagers. Now, police initially arrested two armed suspects, but now say neither had any direct involvement in this case, prompting the release of new surveillance video. Take a look. Police are asking for your help identifying these two suspects. The main suspect is even caught on camera pulling out a gun and firing it into the crowd. Now, take an even closer look. Body-worn camera footage from police responding to the incident captured this clear image of the alleged gunman's face. Detectives are also looking for a suspect wearing all black seen here interacting with the suspected shooter just before gunshots rang out. It is a high-profile case considering the highly trafficked location and the age of the suspects and the victims. But also keep in mind, this is the shooting that led Mayor Brandon Scott to reinstate Baltimore City's youth curfew.
We are going back to the old days. We will be enforcing the youth curfew in Baltimore as we move into the latter spring and summer months.
And anyone with any information on the suspect seen in this new surveillance video are asked to call Metro Crime Stoppers. From the Inner Harbor, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
And though those two teens shot are among the 39 young people who have survived shootings this year in Baltimore alone, 10 children have died from gun violence. Well, this past weekend marking the first time for Baltimore City's new youth curfew. Fox 45 News stopped by outreach centers designated for the curfew over the weekend, and we found them mostly empty. Under the plan, if juveniles are found gathering, they are asked if they would like to be transported to one of these centers while the city locates their parents. However, they can also refuse to go to the centers. Mayor Scott says no children were taken to the centers on Friday, touting the first night as a success. But what about the rest of the weekend? Fox 45 News sending these questions to the mayor's office. How many kids were taken to the Youth Connection centers? How many kids refused to go to the centers? And how many kids were engaged with total? We have not yet received a response.
Baltimore County Police have made an arrest in the deadly shooting at a Motel 6 in Catonsville Monday morning. 18-year-old Jose Diaz Contreras is in custody, accused of killing 30-year-old Javier Argueta and injuring two other people. Police say Diaz Contreras admitted to that shooting, telling officers that he couldn't stop shooting once he started pulling the trigger. He faces 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Also at this hour, Prince George's County Police have arrested a 15-year-old known as Baby K in connection to an attempted murder on a school bus earlier this month. We told you about this story. Police say Baby K and 2 others boarded a bus while it was stopped, then attempted to shoot a girl, but police say the gun malfunctioned. Police also believe Baby K murdered the sister of one of his accomplices 2 days after this attack. Officers are expected to address this arrest tomorrow. Mary?
Kai, thank you. The Baltimore City Council kicking off a series of budget hearings over the next several days. First up, conversations surrounding the city's planned capital investments and the American Rescue Plan funding. The city has $43 million to spend in 2024, but much of today's focus was on tracking what has already been spent.
I definitely hear the feedback that the presentation of how it looks in the agency detail is very confusing. I think we tried to get around that in terms of how we summarize it in the executive summary. But again, there's a disconnect between the 2 different documents.
It's like, okay, well, where's this money? Like, how is it lost from the standpoint of, you know, Director Kearney has a pretty straightforward presentation. This is how much was committed. This is how much has been expended to date, and here's the reason why. The expectation is you should be able to fumble through a budget book and identify where that money is.
Well, Councilman Yitzi Schleifer tweeted that Visit Baltimore told the council they did not receive ARPA money, but the city's ARPA office said they were given $2.5 million. According to the city's ARPA dashboard, out of the $641 million, $563 million has been committed to projects and nonprofits, although at this point only 14% of the total has actually been spent. As council members begin the budget process, there are some outstanding questions for city leaders. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is taking a look at concerns from Chairman Eric Costello about the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement.
Councilman Eric Costello, chair of these budget hearings, is making it clear he wants specific information from an agency he says is exponentially growing and wants details on how Monzi is spending your tax dollars. Ahead of another round of budget hearings, Councilman Eric Costello sending this letter to Shante Jackson, the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, making a list of demands before more money is allocated. He wants status on the city's group violence reduction strategy, internal grant application and awardee process, job description and vacancies, and how the agency is spending $50 million in American Rescue Plan funding.
The role that Monzi plays is critically important. We want to make sure that those taxpayer dollars are being spent the most effective way possible.
The crux of his concern, how groups were selected to get the money. Fox 45 News investigating the city's ARPA allocation process, finding dozens of emails shielding the council from some information about that process, something Costello says he wants to get clear answers about.
Also, there's been some questions around the folks who have been awarded grants from Monzi. So better understanding, the criteria that's used to select those awardees, what performance metrics are in place, et cetera.
We've been asking some of these questions and haven't been able to get anything. Hopefully you will.
Our expectation is to get a written response, just as we did from the public safety letters we sent out last year.
As one of the city's public safety groups, Monzi oversees the community violence intervention ecosystem, and leading that charge is Shante Jackson, who's about to leave City Hall.
Would like to hear about the administration's efforts to find a replacement for that role as well, because it's a critically important role in the crime fighting strategy in Baltimore City.
Monzi ignoring questions about where Jackson is going or why she's choosing to leave. Last week, we tried to get some clarity. I know that you announced your resignation, you're planning to leave. Can you say where you plan to go?
Let me stop right here.
Okay.
Never, ever will I prioritize any news about me over top of news about our young people.
That's why I didn't ask during the press
conference. So we can save that question for a time when I'm ready to share it. Thank you.
Without much success. And then Costello has concerns about the staff within Monzi itself. He says the office has grown to about 30 people, including a raise for Jackson in November of 2022, topping out her salary at more than $220,000 a year.
So really getting an understanding of what it is that those folks are doing, specifically job descriptions.
More questions Fox 45 News has spent years trying to get clarity about, specifically when it comes to the role of Safe Streets workers and the funding going to the Community Violence Intervention Group. Is the budget for Monzi at risk if this information isn't provided to you by the end of the week?
Look, I would say that at this point, it's entirely too early to say, whether or not the council is going to use its new authority to move money around.
Monzi ignoring questions Tuesday from Fox 45, asking if the information requested by Costello would be provided by Friday. Monzi's budget hearing is scheduled to take place next Monday night inside the council chambers. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, later tonight, the City Council will hear from the Baltimore Fire Department. Tomorrow, the City Council will address budget plans for the Baltimore City Development, the Law Department, and the Department of Public Works. Now, the hearing surrounding DPW will be one of the most high-profile this week, with the mayor asking for more crews and an increase in funding for the department while still supporting his Clean Core program. The search for suspects continues in Hollywood, Florida tonight. Coming up, the latest on the boardwalk shooting that injured 9, including a 1-year-old child.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where President Biden and Speaker McCarthy continue to try to sell their debt deal. But will there be yet another roadblock?
And if you're going to check out those game against Guardians this evening, temperatures looking very welcoming in the 70s, falling into the 60s. Maybe a light jacket by the end of the game and that big O's win that we're going to expect. I'm going to let you know how long we're going to hold on to the beautiful weather and when we could threaten 90 degrees in the forecast. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Making headlines tonight, disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes reporting to prison today to begin her 11-year sentence. Holmes entering a woman's prison camp in Texas, about 100 miles from Houston, where she grew up. She was convicted on multiple charges of defrauding investors after claiming to have created a machine that could test for a range of conditions with just a few drops of blood. Holmes is still trying to appeal her conviction. Police in Hollywood, Florida are saying that they are still searching for 3 more suspects after a shooting at a crowded beach last night. It was right on the boardwalk. In total, 9 people were injured, including a 1-year-old child. Investigators say the shooting started after a fight broke out between 2 groups. 2 people involved in the altercation have been arrested on firearms charges. The mayor issuing a word of warning for the remaining suspects.
You do something like this in broad daylight, with CCTV cameras up and down our boardwalk, you will be identified and you will be caught and brought to justice. We're not going to tolerate this kind of behavior in a beautiful beach setting. We're a very peaceful city.
6 of the 9 people shot remain at area hospitals in stable condition. 3 others have been treated and discharged. Police say they have recovered 5 handguns from the scene. 5 handguns, 2 of which were stolen. On the road to getting a debt deal passed, the first stop is the House Rules Committee. If the legislation is going to be blocked, this is where it could happen. National correspondent Christine Frizzell joins us live on Capitol Hill with the very latest on these negotiations. Christine?
Hey there, Mary. So we are more than 3 hours into that House Rules Committee hearing, and it is still going on. And 2 members of the committee, Republicans Chip Roy and Ralph Norman, they've been spending a lot of time laying out why they will vote against this. But another Republican, Thomas Massey, who was a big question mark, now says he anticipates he will vote in favor of the rule to move the legislation out of committee.
Well, I'm glad the speaker's here today.
Despite the stops and starts, negotiations between President Joe Biden and Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy were only Chapter 1. Selling the bill to the disparate edges of each party is the latest challenge.
Not one Republican should vote for this deal. It is a bad deal.
This is about folks like the hard right of the Republican Party coming after a chunk of funding from the IRS so they can let their billionaire buddies off the hook who are cheating on taxes.
For the White House, which initially insisted there would be no negotiations on raising the debt limit, reaching a deal was the cost of doing business in Washington.
It's the nature of governing that you have to compromise, and we think that we struck a fair compromise here.
That compromise, named the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, puts a freeze on most non-military spending for 2 years, redirects billions of dollars in IRS funding and unspent COVID money, adds work requirements for some receiving federal benefits, and most importantly, raises the debt limit until January of 2025. But by how much? No one knows. A sticking point for Republicans who say they'll vote no.
Tomorrow's bill hands Biden a blank check, as it doesn't actually set a debt limit. This is an unlimited debt increase.
But Speaker Kevin McCarthy spent the day continuing to make the hard sell.
If people are against saving all that money or work reforms in welfare reform, I can't do anything about it.
At least some members of the Rules Committee falling in line.
Indeed, this is the most consequential spending reduction bill in more than a decade.
This bill could have been a lot more awful than it is.
Despite ramblings from members in both parties, a final vote for the full House has now been set for tomorrow night. And if it passes there, it will move on to the Senate. Mary?
We will be watching. Christine Frizzell live for us in Washington tonight. Thank you.
All right, taking a look at the Fox Triple Cast this evening. We've got a beautiful look at downtown Baltimore on the Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam. Also, the My 1000 cam. Some partly to mostly cloudy skies, and the HD radar showing us our latest weather maker that continues to drift south. And actually, the current weather maker is a nice one. It's fair weather high pressure, so that's going to keep us dry for several days. Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam. There are some clouds, but 76 as we prepare for the Orioles game at 7:05. Winds out of the east-northeast at 11 miles an hour. Great evening for baseball. Humidity at 42%, and our dew point now at 51 degrees, which is pretty dry. Now, deal all day has been the easterly sections and central sections have been been cooler. 60s out in Denton because of the easterly wind coming off the Atlantic Ocean. It's also gone for places like Ocean City. 76 here in Baltimore, but you get farther west towards the Appalachians, we're warmer. 81 degrees at Westminster and also 81 as you head out toward Frederick. Hit a high of 82 at Westminster, 80 degrees at Hagerstown, 81 at Cumberland near the water areas. We're at 76 for a high this afternoon in Baltimore, 74 at Chestertown. Some low 70s, even some 60s. Not showing up there on the map, though, at Ocean City. Now you get over the Appalachians. That's where the warmth is. And we're talking heat up near 90 today. Actually did make it to 90 at Chicago, 89 at St. Louis. That's where summer is. And that is gradually going to move eastbound, taking the place of some of this kind of marine type air that we've been seeing around this system down to our south. It's been, you can actually see it with the rain, moving moisture and winds in from east to west. That's been our influence over the past couple of days. That's why temperatures have been somewhat cooler. Now, this thing is moving southbound, and the nice dry weather is moving in. And as this continues to gradually weaken and fall apart and eventually move away, the mild weather we've been seeing is going to give way to warmer and warmer weather through week's end. And by the time we get to Friday, again, could be about 90 degrees. So future scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures falling down into the 40s to near 50 by 6 a.m. By 8 a.m., we're at 55. Baltimore, 53 at Cockeysville. Warming to near 70 at lunchtime. Outdoor lunch, everybody, in mid to upper 70s for tomorrow afternoon. Forecast for tonight, 51 moonlit skies, maybe some 40s outlying areas. Light jackets to start, short sleeves to finish. Tomorrow, 78. Ample sunshine. Coming up, I'm going to have your exclusive 10-day forecast take you all the way well through the weekend into next week. Let you know how long those 90s stick around in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Rapid historic snowmelt can sure be pretty as long as you're not in the way. This is Dinky Creek in California near the Sierras, draining into the Kings River. The Mid-Atlantic had a washout of a holiday weekend, but at least it produced some rainbows, like this bow with a faint double seen in North Carolina on Memorial Day evening.
Listen to Off the Radar. New episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
In tonight's Assignment America, one Bethesda-based company is leading the way to legalize fentanyl testing strips nationwide. It says the fight to end the drug crisis affecting the U.S. is a personal one. Elena Shirazi from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has that story.
My children, their friend's brother, who's a high school student, died from a Percocet pill, counterfeit, that was laced with fentanyl.
Robert Hooten is the president of Bethesda-based company Team Vaccinate. He's leading the charge to fight a crisis that claims the lives of more than 150 people a day. And for him, it's personal. We were at a basketball game that memorialized his passing, and you could hear a pin drop here at the school, and it was just very, very moving. His goal is to save lives, leading the lobbying charge on legalizing fentanyl test strips across the country and increasing access. He started lobbying for legislation back in January, cold calling and emailing senators and representatives to do something. It's just terrible because teens are dying, and unfortunately, it's going to continue happening. Last week, he saw the fruits of his labor. Bipartisan legislation called the STRIP Act was introduced last week in Congress. The bill would legalize fentanyl test strips nationwide. Every parent I've spoken with is so happy to hear that there's another tool out there that their children will have when they're not around. If they're at a party, they're studying for an exam. The proposed law would take the testing strips off of the drug paraphernalia list. In Maryland and Virginia, the test strips are legal, and in D.C., they have been decriminalized. Right now, the tests are mostly available at clinics and public health centers, and getting one isn't easy. Hooten tells 7 News his team has also been talking to the CEO of CVS, asking them to consider making testing strips available over the counter at drugstores. Any parent and every parent will do anything they can to make sure that their child is living. Alina Shirazi.
All right, your exclusive 10-day forecast. Temperatures in the mid to upper 70s again for tomorrow. We actually did make it to 77. Just took a check this afternoon. 84 warms up on Thursday. Could push 90. First time since September 4th. On Friday, then we're at 80. Stray thunderstorm or shower on Saturday. It's probably really more the exception than the rule. We're at 78 and sunshine for Sunday, 84. On Monday, sun to PM clouds. Another little light shower into early Tuesday takes you to 80. And it stays right near average all the way through the middle and end of next week. Some nice pool weather in there.
Jonathan, thank you.